You're listening to the Sticks in the Six podcast. Here are your co-hosts, Andrew Forbes, Peter Barricini, and Alex Hobson.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to episode 161 of Sticks in the Six. I'm your host, Andrew Forbes, here with Peter Barricini and Alex Hobson. And boys, first week back together after what seemed like maybe the start of the dog days for the Leafs anyways last week, getting into the summer break here. But things start to ramp up a little bit heading into the Combine and the Draft, and obviously free agency come July 1st. We are starting to get the rumor mill going with Mitch Marner and the Toronto Maple Leafs. But before we get into all that fun conversation, let's see how you guys are doing this week. Peter, let's start to you first, buddy. How you doing?
Yeah, doing good. Yeah, like you said, we're going to get to that point where there's going to be lulls in terms of like news and everything like that, talking points. Kind of a slow week last week, but now with the news of Mitch Marner and the ongoing saga / 2.0, whatever, which we'll get to very soon, that's going to make a very interesting case for not just this offseason, but throughout the whole entire regular season as well, if what's to be expected is going to happen. But yeah, I'm doing good. With draft season around the corner, Saturday is the Combine. So Forbes, I know you'll be heading down there along with fellow THW member Mark Shagg. We're going to be bringing you lots and lots of coverage, talking to the top names at the draft. So I'm just gearing up, getting ready for some of the things that I'm going to be working on afterwards. And yeah, I just hope my mic is working because I haven't checked that out yet.
Yeah, it seems like mic issues tend to be a problem on this show. But Alex, buddy, how you doing this week, my friend? Right on cue.
Yeah,
right
and there we go.
Hey, we're back on track.
Anyway, let me restart my sentence there like I've done so many times before. We're doing good in these parts, boys. A very important playoff series coming up this week, and it's not the Edmonton Oilers and Florida Panthers. It is French and Fried versus no pucks given in the finals of the D10 Men's Ball Hockey League, second lowest division in all of the Niagara region. We are amped up, boys. We got through the quarterfinals and the semifinals with a sweep both times. They're only games out, best out of three, but 4-0 record in the playoffs so far. We got game 1 tonight of the finals, game 2 on Friday, game 3 on Sunday if necessary. So we're fired up. We got our team motto going right now is hashtag no game threes because we don't want to ever let it get there. We want our sweeps.
There you go.
And I was running a little late to the pod today because I was actually on our way to pick up our new tarps and I got them. Not going to lie, they give me a little bit of a practice jersey vibe, but boys, tell me this isn't the cleanest logo you've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
For those listening right now, or for those who can't make out what that is in fact a basket of fries with the one in the front smoking a joint. Can't really see, but you have to zoom in quite a bit. But the eyes
are by the eyes.
The eyes are red.
Yeah,
and obviously I'm going to be backwards here, but worth mentioning as well.
16, love it.
And for legal reasons, I feel like I should disclose that is not representing Mitch Marner right there. I am number 16 because of Darcy Tucker. And because I was born on October 16th. Every time someone sees me running around in my Leafs hat and wearing 16, they're like, "Oh, you like Marner? You're a Marner boy." And I'm like, "Oh, buddy, if only you knew."
More to it than that. I will say the logo does kind of remind me of something like out of SpongeBob, but not like, them getting baked or high or anything like that.
Could you imagine?
Oh, God.
Yeah, it does. It does have a little bit of a SpongeBob feel too, doesn't it? Yeah, our old jerseys were just T-shirts, and the logo was a lot smaller. So I'm pretty jacked up for this one.
Oh, looking nice, man.
Well, even if it's not reminiscent of Mitch Marner, it is very fitting that you are wearing 16 for this episode. Obviously, we will be talking a lot about Mitch Marner over the next little bit. But boys, before we get into all the Leaf talk, I do want to ask your opinion on the final. Obviously, the Edmonton Oilers, Canada's team, let's put that in quotations, Canada's team versus the Florida Panthers, the team that coming out of the strong Atlantic Division. Alex, I'll throw it right back to you. What's your take on this final? Does McJesus stand a chance?
God.
And is it Canada's team? That's the big question rolling around the social right now.
I don't want anyone to win, man. I'm not big on this final whatsoever. Granted, that also has to do with the fact that I am salty, and I'm like this every year when the Leafs get eliminated. I just have no desire to cheer for anyone in the final. I was the same way for Vegas, Florida last year. I will say I don't agree with the Canada's team notion whatsoever. I think the only way that I would kind of buy into that and cheer for Edmonton in the final is because I know that it would probably piss Gary Bettman off. We haven't had a Canadian team win the cup in the Bettman era. So they've been to the finals a couple times, each time against an American team. Obviously, you had your Calgary, Tampa Bay, you had your Edmonton, Carolina, you had your Montreal, Vegas. Like, there have been times where a Canadian team has been in the cup final, but it's never happened under Bettman. So that is the only reason that I'd actually jump behind the whole Canada's team thing. Otherwise, there's so many Canadian players around the league. Like Florida's like they got Canadian players up and down the roster. So does Edmonton. I mean, Edmonton I think has more Canadians, but either way, I've just never bought into that notion of, you got to support the Canadian team, because I know we've had this conversation's been had a million times already, but really, if the Leafs were in the final right now, would Edmonton fans be cheering for the Leafs? No, they wouldn't.
Oh God, no.
I wouldn't expect them to. I would be like, no, obviously you're not going to cheer for a team. I mean, truth be told, I'm not really sure where this rivalry between Toronto fans and Edmonton fans kind of came from. Maybe it has to do with the North Division season a little bit, but at any rate, I don't really buy into that. So I think right now I'm probably going to cheer for the Panthers, to be honest. I'm selfish. I want the Leafs to be the first Canadian team to bring the cup back. But I'm not really in a position where I'm going to be upset or like happy either way, I guess would be the better way to put it. Just whoever wins.
Yeah, I think it's almost fitting that the face, let's call him the face of the NHL right now, obviously Connor McDavid is in the final. It's kind of like a Gary Bettman wet dream to have a Southern market, no taxes, in the final against, the face of the league right now. But Peter, your thoughts on this final? Are the Oilers Canada's team? And who do you see coming out of this?
Yeah, kind of like Alex with the whole Canada team thing. If the roles are reversed, would not only just Edmonton fans, but any Canadian fans be cheering for Toronto to be Canada's team in the finals? I mean, they kind of deserve that moniker or label right now because they did make the cup final. I mean, well, like, it's been a while since that happened. I think the most recent one was Montreal when they just got absolutely obliterated by the Tampa Bay Lightning. But yeah. I again, kind of like, again, not to repeat what Alex said, but like, I'm going to insert that meme from Futurama. I don't know if you guys remember that, but I have no strong feelings either way kind of thing about this matchup where it's Florida, it's Edmonton. I mean, kudos on both teams to getting this far. I think Florida was the favorite anyways coming in. They're just too deep. They're just too in your face. They got that killer instinct, and that's what's going to make you win the Stanley Cup. And I'm going to say that Florida is going to win it because of that. I think Edmonton has a good shot, but at the same time, like, I can't believe it's taken Edmonton, 8 years of Connor McDavid's, tenure in the NHL. I believe that's correct. 8 or 9 seasons. I mean, I'm just gonna guesstimate there. 8 or 9 seasons to get to this point with Connor McDavid, when realistically or theoretically, if they were that deep or that much of a force before, they could have easily have won a Stanley Cup or two had they had the right pieces, which they didn't. I'm still questionable about their goaltending. I don't think Stuart Skinner is that reliable, and I think it's going to get to him at this point. I mean, granted, he stood tall against Dallas. He came back against Vancouver, but I'm still very wary about everything in net for Edmonton. And could they match the physicality? Could they match the intensity? I don't think that that's going to be the big case right now, because we know how physical or how much of a team that the Florida Panthers pride themselves on. And also, I find this very funny too. The first 4 picks from the 2014 NHL Draft are in this Cup final. 3 of them on the Florida Panthers, and Aaron Ekblad, taken first, Sam Reinhart, who was taken second by Buffalo, and Sam Bennett, fourth overall by Calgary, and Leon Draisaitl, obviously third overall to Edmonton. So I just wanted to point that out, that's a really, really fun little tidbit right there in regards to that 2014 draft. But yeah, I don't think that Edmonton is Canada's team, but in terms of these playoffs, yeah, they are. And I still think Florida's going to win it.
Here's a fun tidbit for you as well. David Alter, friend of the show. Only one Stanley Cup final since 2016 featured two teams that levied a state provincial income tax. No state tax income tax teams in bold. So dating back to 2017, the Nashville Predators didn't have a state tax. 2018, Vegas Golden Knights didn't have a state tax. The only year that both teams had state tax or provincial taxes, 2019, St. Louis and Boston. 2020, both teams without state taxes. 2021, you had Tampa Bay with no state tax. 2022, Tampa Bay again, no state tax. 2023, both teams again, no state tax. And then, of course, this season, Florida Panthers, once again, no state tax. So, matchup aside, this is a fun little tidbit from David Alter because obviously it comes back to the cap idea, the cap era, how fair and how much parity it creates in the league, and yet here you are now with what we're talking 7 seasons now with teams with no state taxes making it to the cup final, and out of those 7 years, the majority of the time it's been a team that has won it with no state tax. A good reason for why, I mean, getting into the free agency talk, getting why free agents go to teams that they obviously don't have to pay a heavier tax on. John Tavares, a good one right here in Toronto with the CRA coming after him for his signing bonus. But just an interesting fact as well. I think it'll definitely be a fun final to watch. I think in terms of the game itself, I think it's going to be physical. I think it's going to be fast. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think in terms of who holds the advantage, I think Florida might come up slightly lower on the forward side, but when it comes to defense and goaltending, I think they have the upper hand. So it's definitely going to be a fun series. Hopefully they can make it go, 6 or 7 games, tire them out for next season. And we can be talking about how they're going to come up on the bottom of their divisions next season. But I do think Florida comes out on top. I agree with both of you guys. I don't think the Oilers are Canada's team. I think this rivalry was built on McDavid versus Matthews, and the whole narrative around, who is better, and Canadian versus American, and all that kind of stuff as well. So I think that's where that rivalry is built. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm kind of like you, Alex. I'm kind of salty too. I don't really care who wins, and there's a piece of me that wants Hyman to get a cup, but there's also a piece of me that doesn't. So, but here's your hot take for the pod. I think if the Edmonton Oilers win a cup, and I think if Hyman plays out the remainder of his career in Edmonton, there's a conversation when he retires about the Hockey Hall of Fame.
There's always going to be a conversation about the Hockey Hall of Fame.
But I think he's got a legitimate shot if you look at it.
Yeah. You've
got guys like Guy Carbonneau in there. You've got guys like Kevin Lowe, who basically rode the coattails of Wayne Gretzky. This is a guy who now has a 50-goal season, potentially a Stanley Cup winner, and he's that defensive forward just like Guy Carbonneau. And he has an upper hand on Guy Carbonneau now if he wins a cup.
And let's not count out the fact that, okay, if we're also going to talk about Conn Smythe winners or MVPs, he's a point per game player with 14 goals. I mean, obviously, I think that's gone more
a little
to
money on that one, or what?
I don't know. I'm not really a betting person, but I mean, obviously, you're probably looking at McDavid Draisaitl right away, but let's not count out Hyman with how many clutch goals he has scored. And everyone's going to say, oh, he only does it because he's in tight on the goalie. I'm like, well, he's working hard for those goals.
Plays his game, yeah.
He plays his game. He's working hard for it. So if he wins the Stanley Cup and maybe adds a little bit more hardware to it, why not have that conversation?
Absolutely. Anyways, boys, let's get to our Leaf talk. Obviously, this episode, it's titled "The Mitch Marner Saga," and it continues. This is part two, as you put in our notes, Peter. Obviously, the first time around, there was a big conversation around his contract extension. This time around, there are reports out there that his camp and his agent came out and that he wants to remain a free agent through July 1st, through the season. Wants to remain with the Leafs. Not really willing to trade it or to waive his no trade clause. Alex, your thoughts on this whole situation? Are we going to be seeing like a Sundin type thing where stays with him and then leaves at the end of the year, or the conversations right now are that the Leafs need to trade Marner? Where do you sit on that?
I'm trying not to read into too many of the reports that are coming out from Marner's side or from the Leafs side, because the way I see it, nobody is going to come out and say what's going to happen on June 5th, right? Like if this happens, Marner, I know he's got the no move clause, but he has the list of teams. If they ask him to submit the list of teams, I don't think that's something he can say no to. Correct me if I'm wrong. You would have to be at the draft, and it would be close to that area where the draft is happening and then free agency opens the following week. So, Mitch Marner is, he's obviously focused on getting a fair amount for his deal, or what he believes to be a fair amount. I'm sure he wants to stay in Toronto, but he is not so I don't expect him to, be running to Treliving's office to give him his no trade or his list of teams that he wants to play for if he gets traded right now. Like, I feel like it's very normal dialogue coming from both sides right now. The Leafs are acknowledging that he's a good player, but they might have to, they're open to anything. Excuse me. And then from Marner's side, yeah, he wants to stay a Leaf. He's probably not looking to tell the media, or his agent's probably not looking to tell the media anything about his plans. So yeah, I really have no opinion on the situation right now. I think it would be kind of a disaster for both sides if he went into next season without a contract, because Mitch Marner has not been able to play under pressure in the past. We've seen that before. So he either comes out, plays horribly, gets booed out of town, or he either comes in, plays really well because he's in a contract year, signs with a different team, and then gets booed out of town, right? Like if there's going to be a resolution here that would benefit everybody, I think it would probably have to come in the form of a trade in the summer. But yeah, I don't really have a take on the situation outside of that. I want to wait and get closer to the draft, and maybe some more stuff will continue to come out. But right now, I really don't see much to talk about. I think this is just kind of status quo for both sides.
Peter, I'll get your opinion on this before I insert mine here, but your thoughts on Marner, and what's the ideal situation for Mitch Marner and the Toronto Maple Leafs?
I mean, if you were on like social media, you see how bad the situation has gone. Like if you thought that the fans had a sour taste in their mouth after what happened with the first contract extension with Kyle Dubas, how he got overpaid, everything like that, this is like next level right now. I mean, like seeing the comments and seeing the takes is just absolutely wild at this point. I think that I agree with Alex at a point where whatever happens, it happens at this point. It's not like we just don't know a whole lot of information other than the fact that the two sides are talking. They're both giving their takes about what should be done about this. And, Alex pointed to, he could request a trade, get booed out of town, or stay the season and get booed out of town. Well, what if he stays the season, gets booed out of town, and then walks for nothing for the organization because he holds all the cards? He has all the power at this point. I mean, if you're Treliving, you could say, hey, we're still not going to sign you. We would like to move you. But Marner could also just say, okay, that's great, but I'm still going to stay here. And he could have like the worst season of his career and then probably pick it up afterwards, because that's the main thing too. Treliving said a really great comment actually in regards to the whole situation where controls a lot of this thing with the no move clause. If there's a way to make our team better, we're going to do it, but we're certainly not going to make a trade just so we can pound our chest and say, look, we're different. I agree to that to an extent, but at the same point, you've seen how ineffective this core is, especially Marner the last 2-3 playoffs, where he's virtually invisible in the playoffs. He does absolutely nothing. at some point you're going to have to say, or when you do these next contract negotiations, if you do a no move clause, you would probably do it at the beginning and then maybe not so much in the last 2 years. So you could try and move away from that, because that's what it's handcuffing them right now, is these clauses, because the player holds all the power at this point. I do agree that, if you do need to make a move, the offseason season's the best bet. Deadline day, past free agency, what have you. But until then, nothing else is substantiated as happened. And we can still talk about like potential destinations to try and trade Marner. But if it ain't going to happen, it ain't going to happen. And you know what? If he does stay here, to just say, you know what, this is my decision. This is what I'm going to do. You can't do anything about that. Great, it is. But man, that's going to make a lot of fans, opinion on Marner switch even more to the other side and lose favor with him, because he's not doing himself any favor right now. If he wants to stay on this team, great, but you can tell they need to make a change unless something miraculously happens with the new coach in Berube. But yeah, that's where I stand at this point.
So right after they were knocked out, I was the emotional Leaf fan. Fuck it, blow it up. Let's get rid of everybody. Let's start from scratch, ground up and what have you. But what if we don't make an emotional decision? What if we sit back, allow things to play out, draft day, free agency, see where they're sitting, and come back to the table and look at things from a different perspective and say, maybe it's a situational thing in the playoffs. Maybe all of a sudden, where he's a first liner during the regular season, all of a sudden Mitch Marner's not a first liner come playoff time. Maybe he's a guy you move to the third line and he excels in a third line spot come playoff time, because there's maybe just that little bit less attention on him. It's something that, obviously has to be a conversation, especially with the Leafs. How many guys have they moved on from way too early in their careers to just see them go on to have success elsewhere?
Yeah. And that's the thing where you don't want to make a drastic change, because look what happened with Hyman, Kadri. Kessel needed to happen because that was like a old regime. Sure.
That was the dog days of the Leafs, so right? Like, yeah. Kessel was when our top scorer, Alex, you reference this all the time. Our top scorer was like 65 points. I mean,
56.
56. Sorry, dyslexic. But like, that's where, like, of course, yeah, you have to move on from that. But I'm thinking back to like Anton Stralman. I'm thinking back to Alex Steen. Yeah. Guys that they moved on from way too early for, like, and they moved those pieces for Lee Stepniak, right? Like, go back and think about that for a second. So I'm not saying, it's too early to move on from Marner. The possibility is there. I think you have to sit back and make a rational decision on the move, though. And like True Living said, and it almost sounds recycled from Dubas at a certain point too. It almost sounds like it's coming from the top of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. We're not going to just make a move to make a move. It's the same thing we heard last offseason, right? Yeah, you got to make a move that's going to better your franchise, and not just for right now, but for the long run. At the same time, make sure you've done your due diligence when it comes to situational positioning on the roster come playoff time. That all said, Marner's handling of the Toronto media is not to the same caliber as a guy like Austin Matthews, as a guy like William Nylander, as a guy like Morgan Rielly, even in Ilya Samsonov. When he came back from injury, and he said, I was watching you guys talk about me while I was off, it showed almost like a weakness, a chink in the armor when it comes to Mitch Marner's ability to handle Toronto media. We go back to his first negotiation. There was rumors swirling that Paul Marner was part of the negotiations, that his dad was involved in every aspect of, you deserve more. You're like he said in his postseason comments, you're part of, or we're gods in this city. Well, that tells me that he's expected to be paid like a god in this city. To this point, he's not a 100-point guy.
Close,
but he's not a 100-point guy. Nylander is. And you've done less in the playoffs than Nylander. So what reason
What
should you
makes you
get paid?
deserve more than him?
100%. So if I'm going into negotiations, that's where my stance is. If I'm the team, if I'm Marner, obviously I want more. I've come to this franchise. I've put my best foot forward. I've gone through some ups and downs within the organization. But from a team standpoint, if you want to have success, we've said this all along, the model is everyone buys in. And if Mitch Marner cannot buy into the model of you need to take less for us to have success, then see you later.
One more point to add on to that. Like, if you've already got that big payday on your first contract, that 10.85, you wanted to be paid like that, but you really haven't performed to that level. I mean, you have been in regular season, but come playoff time, you're an absolute ghost. Like, your play is virtually invisible. It's not the same standard as that is in the regular season. We're paying you to win a championship. Why would I pay you more this time around or give you more when you really haven't met those expectations? That to me seems like, you know what? You got to decide how you want to do this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely is. Yeah, like Alex said though, I mean this is going to be the headline for the next 3 weeks until the draft happens, and when the Leafs make some crazy first round pick, that'll be the headline following that. But with that said, assuming they look to make a deal, which has been the conversation as we mentioned on social media, assuming they try to make a deal this offseason, Peter, if you had an ideal trade partner for the Toronto Maple Leafs and Mitch Marner, where are you going? Where's Marner? What crest is Marner wearing on his chest next season?
See, again, so I made a trade proposal previously, and this was before all this new information came out where, there are talks about, Marner having teams like, Vegas, Utah, Nashville, all of these names creep in as potential suitors for Marner. And immediately I looked at Vegas because I used the acquisition of Shea Theodore and Logan Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
Theodore gives you that left. He's a left shot, but he can play both left or right side. That steady 2AD, power play guy, transitional, little bit physical. He gives you that top pairing defender to play alongside Morgan Riley. Also, 5.25 was his contract, or 5.2 million. Decent salary to bring in, and it'll free up a whole lot of space after that. Logan Thompson in the final year of his contract as well. So yeah, Theodore's 5.2 in the final year of his contract. Thompson's making just over league minimum. So the Maple Leafs could extend him if they wanted to. Now, I understand the cap constraints for Vegas as well. A lot of names coming off the books. Are they going to re-sign Jonathan Marchessault? They would like to keep him in the fold. Chandler Stephen, most likely he's going to be a cap casualty. Alec Martinez is off the book. So they have some space, but maybe not a whole lot. If Toronto was even willing to retain maybe $1 million of Mitch Marner salary, that was where I was going with that in terms of a potential fit. I actually wrote about that if you want to check it out at the Hockey Writers. It's Vegas and Theodore being main targets for that Marner deal. But hearing everything right now, it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. And even the whole, I guess you guys saw the photo of Marner and Berube sitting in that cafe and everything like that, already having that conversation. And I'm immediately, not to say that the situation is the same, but I'm drawn back to that meeting where Mike Babcock had with Austin Matthews after that 1 year where maybe he flew down to Arizona. They were talking things out. Probably different scenario, but maybe same context where player and coach want to get on the same level. And I wonder right now, I know where everyone wants to trade Mitch Marner, but what if that slim chance Berube gets through to Marner and makes him play with that dog mentality that other teams are having right now, and that Marner has shown, in the early portion of his career in the playoffs, like he did in the OHL. I'm hoping that maybe that there's that slim glimmer of hope where maybe Berube gets to him and maybe he finds that right fit that, you know what, if you're going to play on my team, we need to see a little bit more of that not necessarily tenacity, but that willingness to do and play hard. Got to go back to the word that he used in his press conference, but he wants to be a hard-hitting team. You not give up on play. And we saw Marner give up on plays quite a bit. So if Marner wants to succeed and thrive and stay with this team, he can't back away from those plays. And knowing how he can win puck battles easily and evade that pressure, he's got to do just that. So I know we were talking about trades and I kind of diverted there for a second, but I just want to add in that little glimmer of hope that maybe Berube can get through to him.
Wasn't you said cafe? Wasn't it Tim Hortons?
It was no, it wasn't a Tim Hortons.
It was actually a cafe. Yeah.
So there is a glimmer of hope, because if it was a Tim Hortons, I was going to say he's fucking gone. Like there's no chance.
Got to get more than the Timmy's coffee. Then
no chance you go to coffee with Berube at Tim Hortons, drink their shitty coffee.
I thought you were joking there for a second. I'm like, wait, I thought it was a cafe. I was completely off there for a second.
No, I might not have taken a close look. Anyways, Alex, if they made a move right now, is there an ideal partner for the Leafs and Mitch Marner?
I mean, I think the best chance would be to Nashville, probably. I just feels like same reason Ryan O'Reilly dipped there last offseason, less pressure from a hockey standpoint. And, looking at Marner, you can just tell that the guy's not going to want to go to a place like Columbus. Like, he's going to want to go somewhere where he can have a life along with, being an NHL player. So the other place that I could see them maybe making a trade with is Utah. But again, do we really think Marner's going to waive his no-move clause to go to Utah? Go to Salt Lake City and live full time? Is he going to become a Mormon?
I was just kidding.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know about that one. So and I'm sorry, Peter, I hate to circle to this too, but I can't lie. I'm so sick of having conversations about getting through to Marner as a 27-year-old. I agree. And I know, and I'm not saying that you don't agree. I'm just,
how long does it have to take?
Every time we hear about, okay, is there a chance this coach could unlock his players? Is there a chance that he could, find a place for Marner lower in the lineup? He's not a third line. I hate having these conversations about a guy who's about to be paid $12.5 million.
You shouldn't have to have this conversation for a guy that's 6, 7, 8 years into his career.
I was more than willing to have that conversation after the Leafs got eliminated by Montreal in the bubble, or not in the bubble, in the North Division season, whatever. It's all the same to me. But no, not now, not at this point of his career. And that's why, even when you were talking there, Forbes, about how moving on from guys too quickly, I understand, because Lee Stempniak experiment in Toronto sucked, and Alex Steen went on to win a cup with the Blues and be a contributing member of that team for his entire career.
Did too.
Tyler Bozak was there as well.
Boys, let's also not forget about Carter Verhaeghe.
Yeah.
How we gave up on him easily, and now look at him with the Florida Panthers.
I think that was more bad asset management more than anything else. I think that Lou Lamoriello just couldn't differentiate that maybe Verhaeghe had a little more potential than guys to the likes of Tom Nilsson and
Matt Finn.
That was on Lou, I think. But at any rate, my problem with the reason that I still kind of struggle with that notion is because even Alex Steen, he got paid probably $6-7 million at the peak of his career. This is a guy who's taking up a significant portion of the cap. And that's why, as much as I understand, you don't want, because let's face it, regardless of who he goes to, he's going to find out. He's going to find his game. He's going to turn into a dog in the it's going to happen. It's just a matter of which team he does it for.
It's the Leaf playbook.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I kind of got distracted there, just like you did, Peter. But yeah, Nashville, I think, would be the best spot for him in terms of a trade. Utah, I think, would work out really well from a hockey standpoint, but will he waive for Salt Lake City? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Well, boys, I know on some betting sites they have where Steven Stamkos will end up next. That's one of the options for a props bet. I'm sure they'll have something for Mitch Marner at some point, including the Leafs will be an option, I'm sure. But with that, just a quick word from our sponsors over at DraftKings Sportsbook. We're this close to crowning the Stanley Cup champion, and with the action heating up on the ice, it's even hotter at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. New to DraftKings, listen up. New customers can get a no-sweat bet up to $1,500. Just deposit at least $5, and you'll get a bonus bet back equal to your first bet if it doesn't hit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get a no-sweat bet up to $1,500 if your first bet doesn't hit. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. One no sweat bet per new customer, issued as one bonus bet based on an amount of initial losing bet. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.co/ice for eligibility. Wagering and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Copyright NHL 2024. All rights reserved. Little off topic, but did you guys see the 4 baseball players that were five
Yep.
baseball players suspended for betting?
Yeah.
The one kid on the Pirates bet on the Pirates.
Yeah.
Little Pete Rose action.
Yep. It was while he was while he was hurt though, I'm pretty sure. So it's not like he was influencing the game.
Yeah,
But,
it
very
just,
well
you
could have been in his teammates' ears.
Oh no, we
Yeah.
all saw what happened with that Raptors player.
Yeah. I also saw reading about that Marsano guy, the guy who was on the Pirates and then he was on the Padres when he got exposed for betting. That dude's success rate was like he won 4% of 231 bets that he laid down or something like that. That's like Alex Hobson numbers right there.
Jesus.
Like, buddy, if you're gonna legally bet, you got to be good at it, man. Come on.
Yeah. No kidding. You just think in
I just
in
throw
this
darts
day
on the
and
wall
age-
there.
In this day and age, you'd find an interpreter to do it for you.
Yeah. Good call.
Oh,
You'd
man.
also think in this day and age, maybe people would be a little less obtuse to the fact that MLB is pushing gambling ads down our throat. Every fucking TV commercial, every sponsor on a live stream, every podcast. And that's not just MLB, that's every league. But I
Yeah.
do love the irony in that. Same thing with the Shane Pinto situation in Ottawa. Dude got half a season suspended for gambling, yet every time he turns on the TV, there's something about betting. There's something about presented by Bet365, presented by this, presented by that, etc. Anyway, there's my little boomer rant right there.
Okay, well, boys, Dean Chenoweth is out for the Leafs. Lane Lambert is in on the coaching staff. It's starting to take some form under Craig Berube's reign. It's already started. Started in a cafe with Mitch Marner out here, but anyways, Joel Edmondson, guys, is this a guy we want to see back next season? Alex, did you see what you liked, or did you like what you saw from him over his short stint with the Leafs, and is it a guy that maybe you see coming back for 2024-25?
If we're talking, sorry, something happened there. I lost about half of what you said. I heard you were asking me about an assistant coach short stint with the Leafs. Do I see who coming back? Sorry.
No, sorry. Yeah, I jumped over to Joel Edmondson.
Okay.
There's conversations that they want to re-sign Joel Edmondson.
Gotcha. Yeah, I did like what I saw from him. I don't want them to pay him, for example, what Luke Shen got from Nashville last year. I don't think they should be venturing into David Kampf and over territory in terms of paying him money to stay. But we'll see. He's certainly a guy that if he was willing to not take a discount, but like if he was willing to, if he was willing to take a relatively cheap price, and if there's not too much of a bidding war for him, I'd be happy to have him back. I think he was rock solid in the playoffs, and as long as he doesn't play any higher than the third pair, I think we're cooking. So I wouldn't mind seeing him back, but it's got to be for the right price.
Peter, your thoughts on the possibility of re-adding Joel Edmondson this offseason?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would definitely love it. And I think there's that mutual interest right there, but I think they want to see how things play out in other aspects and other regards too. I do think that he was probably one of the better defenders during that series against Boston. And when the intensity started to amp up, he was basically in the middle of it all, boxing players out, keeping them to the outside, making big time hits. I mean, that's essentially what you wanted. And now the fact that Craig Berube is back in the fold in Toronto and Edmondson was a relied upon defender for him during that cup run, I think there definitely could be a good fit there. And now with Lane Lambert back in, don't know how well it's going to work out, but he has had his ups. He has had his downs as well, in terms of like coaching, working forwards, and even working with the penalty kill too. But I think with the right coach, it can work out. And if he has Edmondson at his disposal as well, I think that could work very well for him and the penalty killing unit too. So, liked what I saw down the stretch, liked what I saw in the playoffs. Like Alex, I'd give him a reasonable contract, maybe not at, 3.5 right now, but I would still probably go for maybe something a little bit less, 1.5, maybe. I think that'll be more realistic.
Yeah, I think they got to see what plays out from this Bertuzzi and Domi talk as well. Like, there's conversation they want to bring both back. I know there's some speculation that they're more inclined to bring Domi back over Bertuzzi and vice versa. But I think you see where those two go. I'd like to see both of them back, to be honest. I think especially in that second half, Bertuzzi came alive. Domi kind of was, a reliable pest the entire season. But I think definitely if you can get him back for, like you said, under $2 million, I think that's a reasonable price for a guy that he's made for playoff hockey. That's exactly, and you mentioned he's got that history with Berube. I just think it seems to be a relatively good fit, and in a tough Atlantic division, I think you need those guys on the back end. And right now, obviously, Jake McCabe was unreal in the playoffs too, so you've got him as well. I'd like to see an extension for that guy as well. But yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him back for the right price. Like I said earlier, if everyone buys in, there's no reason why this team can't have that sort of success. So Edmondson's got to fall into that as well. As you mentioned off the top of the show, Peter, we've got the Combine on Friday, Saturday in Buffalo. With that comes the draft. I believe you're heading down for the draft as well.
Waiting on word for credentials, but everything is booked just in case that does happen. Yeah.
There you go. So with that, assuming the Leafs keep their first round pick, and we know how the first round went last year, there's a lot of question marks on Easton Cowan as the selection, and we'll talk about him in a second here, but where do you see the Leafs going with their first round pick if they were to keep it this time around?
I mean, this is the defenseman of the draft. I think that priority number one should be a defenseman. I've actually written 2 articles, one that recently just came out as well, about 3 defensive targets. EJ Emery from the National Team Development Program, Dominic Badenka is one, but one that's really climbing the list right now, and I think really fits that mold of being a Brad Treliving type defender, is Stein Solberg from Norway. Lasse Allen yesterday just tweeted out a video about 2 minutes of him nonstop, just leveling players, competition, everything in sights. Like, he is a literal throwback player that has that edge and that, aggressive nature to him, but he's very mobile and can still move the puck up in transition. He does have a little bit of offensive upside, and he played well against men at the senior level in Norway, going to play in the SHL as well. But even he stood out the World Hockey Championships. If there's one guy that they should really target, it's him, but there's also the possibility that he could be taken earlier than the Maple Leafs. So if he's available at 23, you bet he should be available. But if there's another forward, like let's say Jetlachenko, if they take a reach on Sam O'Reilly, who I know that has that work ethic and not the quickest player, but has that ability to get to the middle of the ice, and he has a bit of an edge. John Mustard, who has that size with speed, skill, and was a top rookie in the USHL. I think those are some underrated names that if they choose to go off the board and they don't have a second or third round pick, they could probably do the same like what they did with Cowan last year. Even other defenders too. I think Colton Roberts is one. Noel Franzen could be another as another puck moving defender. But yeah, they have a lot of options at their disposal, but I think defense should be the main target.
Alex, do you have anybody in that first round that you'd like the Leafs to take a look at with that late first round pick?
No one in particular, really. I haven't. I'm going to be honest. My draft sort of not knowledge, but like I haven't really watched a lot of film this year. I've kind of taken a step back this year. I haven't looked as much as I normally do. So don't take anything I say here at face value, because there's a decent chance that I might not be fully informed on what I'm saying. So just got to get that disclaimer out there. However, I do like the looks of, if I pronounce this right, Sasha Boisvert. Boisvert, yeah, I figured. I should have known that. I took French immersion. Sasha Boisvert, if he's available, I like that winger center versatility. I think he's got good size, and he's got some solid upside offensively as well. From a defensive standpoint, I've been an EJ Emery guy since the start of the year, so we'll see what direction they go in. But I definitely, thanks for the reminder. I need to start looking up the mock drafts again and start taking a deeper look into who I want the Leafs to get, because that's going to be a prime content season as we get closer.
Well, boys, obviously I mentioned earlier the reach they made last season in the draft with their first round pick, Easton Cowan. A lot of question marks when he was drafted. Obviously, he kind of put those to rest this season. His London Knights, he was second on the team behind Denver Barkey in points this season. 54 games, he had 34 goals, 96 points rather. And then another 34 points in 18 playoff games. The London Knights went on to win the OHL championship. He was the MVP of the playoffs, and then obviously lost in the Memorial Cup final with 10 seconds left to those pesky Saginaw Spirit and Owen Beck. Safe to say there might be a little rivalry there at some point with Owen Beck and Easton Cowan going to Montreal and Toronto. But big shout out to the London Knights and Easton Cowan. Obviously the Leafs scouting staff knew what they were doing when they took him in the first round last year. With that, boys, there's not much else to go off of for our Maple Leafs this week around, but anything you wanted to add before we close it out here?
Wish us luck, boys. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go, French and fried.
Yeah, let's go, man.
There you go. Okay, well, you'll have to update us all once you're done game one here. Yeah. Hopefully, #no game threes.
And be wrapped up by Friday night, baby. That's the plan.
There you go.
That's the Mark Messier guarantee right there.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
that's right. Calling my shot.
Yeah. Anyways, boys, as always, thank you to all those who tuned in this afternoon to episode 161. You can follow us over on X or Instagram, or make sure you subscribe on YouTube as well. Check out the Hockey Podcast Network. DraftKings, use code THPN, and check out SeatGeek, where you can get tickets for a much cheaper price and get $20 off your first purchase when you use code STICKSIN6. Until next week, boys, Peter, you and I will be seeing each other in Buffalo this weekend.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully we'll have some good quotes from you or for you from some of the up-and-coming draftees. Look forward to it. It's a yearly event for us, so we look forward to that for the hockey writers. Until next week, boys, episode 161 in the books. That's not our exit music.